Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
Hello everyone. I hope you all are keeping fine. Now let us continue with the lesson. Now in the previous lesson you had different concepts of matter. You learned that matter that we see around us, that we feel around us, that they are all made up of a very small particle and we call it as an atom. In the previous lesson you also learned that atom is the smallest particle that takes part in chemical reactions. And John Dalton gave an elaborate postulate regarding the properties of atom. He said that atoms are the smallest particle and they are indivisible. Now the question is it right? He also postulated that atoms of different elements are different from one another, both physically and chemically. Now, if they are different from one another, what is the main thing that makes an atom different of different elements? So to answer these questions, we need to further study and find out and explore the material world, that is the matter. One important thing that you need to understand is that when we see things around us, we had observed that there are certain things that we had observed them as neutral had now been charged up, or we tend to see different kinds of charges. So in this particular chapter, we are going to explore the world of atom. So let's start that. So structure of the atom. As I told you, that Dalton said that atoms is indivisible. But is atom really indivisible? Now you must have seen there are many such small instances in your day-to-day life which explains that atoms have got different, they are made up of charges. For example, if you take a comb and on a dry hair, if you keep on combing it repeatedly, you would see that the hair starts sticking to the comb as you take it away. Now what is the reason? The reason is that it has developed static electric charges. Now as we know that every matter is made up of small atoms and these atoms are indivisible, that is atom is neutral, then where did these charges come from? So the scientists and the chemists of the 19th century, the early 18th century, it really bothered them and they kept on experimenting and to find out the answer to the various questions that they were observing in and around them. In one such instance, J.J. Thomson came out with an astonishing fact about an atom, that is the discovery of an electron. Now according to J.J. Thomson, what did he find? That he understood that every atom, the matter is made up of, is actually a combination of charges. And he did so through his experiments, through his various experiments. It was a trial and error method and gradually he came out with the discovery of an atom and he was the first one to coin the word electron. That is, an atom is made up of a subatomic particle and he named it as an electron. And for this work, in the year 1906, J.J. Thomson was awarded the Nobel Prize for Physics. Now, J.J. Thomson conducted an experiment through which he discovered the presence of a negatively charged particle and he named it later on as an electron. Now, in this, what did he do? He took a discharge tube. Which was made up of glass. So he took the discharge tube, a hard glass discharge tube, and then he attached the two electrodes on the side of the discharge tube. Now these two discharge tube, one was taken as the cathode, which is negatively charged, whereas the other was taken as anode, which is positively charged. So he connected the two electrodes. Now through one of the opening, what did J.J. Thomson do? He pumped out the air. After pumping out the air, he cocked it. thereby assuming that the space inside the discharge tube is vacuum. Then he lowered down the pressure. This was done in order to lower the pressure. He brought down the pressure to 0.01 mm of mercury. And then he allowed around 10,000 volts of electric current to pass through the electrodes. Now, the moment he started to let a current of high voltage 10,000 volt pass through the electrode, he observed a very astonishing thing. What did he observe? He found that there was a glow which was behind the anode. Now he was surprised to see that where did this glow or the light come from. When he analyzed, he found that when he tried to draw out the gas from the air that was present inside the discharge tube, there were some traces of gases that were left behind in the discharge tube. And this glow was because of a particle that had broken out from the atom and got struck behind the anode. And when he analyzed, he found that these particles were negatively charged. So these particles started moving from the negative end of the cathode and moved towards the positive anode. And when they struck the glass walls of the discharge tube, that portion started glowing with a green glow. And thus he termed it as a cathode ray. And why did he term it as a cathode ray? Because it originated from the cathode and started moving towards the anode. That is, it originated from the negative end and moved towards the positive end. So the movement of these particles from one end to the positive anode suggested and made it authenticated that this was negatively charged. So he found that this cathode ray was basically the particles which has detached from the neutral atom and started moving from the cathode towards the positive anode. Now, to further understand the property of the cathode ray, what did J.J. Thomson do? He subjected the cathode ray to an electric field. When he subjected it to an electric field, he found that the cathode ray moved towards the positive terminal. So this further authenticated that this is negatively charged, which started getting attracted towards the positive charge. He also analyzed and he found out that these electrons had a mass of around 1838. It was 1838 times lighter than hydrogen atom. As we had already learned in the previous lesson that the hydrogen atom has an atomic mass unit of 1 AMU. So the hydrogen atom has an atomic mass unit of 1 AMU. Therefore, an electron is around 1 by 1838 times that of hydrogen atom. So this is the valuation of an electron. So we see that the electron is very, very small. It is very small, it is very minute, and it is in subatomic particle. What is the mass? Mass of an electron is equal to 9.109 into 10 to the power minus 28 gram. This is the mass of an electron, and the charge that an electron has is equal to 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb. So J.J. Thomson analyzed the cathode ray And he formulated that the size of an electron is 1 by 1838 times that of hydrogen atom, and we know hydrogen atom is the smallest element, it is the lightest element. So we can imagine that the size of the electron is very minute, which is almost negligible in comparison to the size of an atom. The mass of an electron was found to be 9.109 into 10 to the power minus 28 gram, whereas the charge is equivalent to minus 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 90 coulomb. So, J.J. Thomson was the first person to say that atom is not indivisible, but in fact atom is divisible because it is made up of a subatomic particle, and he named it as an electron, which is negatively charged. And he specified the mass as well as he specified the charge. And he also gave the specification of the size of an atom, of an electron in an atom. Now, this made a revolution in the concept of atom. So, if there is a negative charge, then definitely there must be a positive charge which makes an atom electrically neutral. So, the quest for the discovery of the positive charge was on.